My first guest this morning, and you're going to be intrigued by Miss Sylvia Lathan this morning. Sylvia has a book called The Unlatched Door. Now, you can imagine what that can be about. Good morning, Sylvia. How are you?
Good morning, Miss Perriman.
Okay, speak up in that mic.
Good morning, Miss Perriman.
That's what I tell my students. You're such a lovely, brave woman.
Thank you.
Now, the unlatched door. Well, let's start a little bit with what you remember about yourself. Were you born in Detroit?
Yes, I was.
And but there's a piece of your life that you don't remember, right?
Yes, it is. I have approximately 11 and a half years of memories I do not have.
Wow. Well, we'll go back to that, and we'll go back to your book, because your book, The Unlatched Door, is kind of autobiographical, right?
Yes.
Now, why do you call it The Unlatched Door?
Well, I went through a number of titles, and I thought that this one, actually, my marketing coach, he thought that this one stood out best because the doors were unlatching in my life every day. Some people may say frequently. Mine was every single day. And so I thought very hard on it, and that's why I came up with that.
Okay, now we're talking metaphorically and we're talking literally, probably. Metaphorically, when you talk about the unlatched door, and you're talking about things in your mind are just unlocking. Things
Yes.
are unlocking. But as a child, there probably were a lot of unlatched doors also.
Yes, yes, it was. When I say the unlatched door, it makes me think about how many times I was abused and how many times some stranger came in the door to abuse me. And that's why I think about the unlatched door, about how many times the door was unlatched upon my life.
Well, we're going to go back to what you remember at first, because you told me that the first 11 and a half years, you don't really remember those years.
No, I don't. The memories that I do have, they're all bad. I don't have any good memories whatsoever. I don't ever remember being 10, not having a birthday at 9. I don't remember anything. It's just like one big blank page.
Well, you did tell us that one of your aunts, and we have a call here. Right? Good morning. Hello.
Good morning. Is this what we're broadcasting?
Pardon?
What we're broadcasting?
Yes.
Okay. Is Henry in?
No, we're on the air, sir. You'll have to call 313-868-6612 later on in the day.
Okay, you're on the air. Okay, are you the owner of what we're
No, I have nothing to do with that. My goodness. Anyway, so you said an aunt said that you opened the door at 3 years old, and you were dirty, you were scruffy, and so forth, and you were home alone.
Yes, that was pretty hard for me to retrieve that information. All I wanted to ask her was, do she know anything about me from my past? Because I was missing things. My mom wasn't giving me information. Nobody I could go to in my family would talk to me about anything. And so I got kind of frustrated a few years back because I wanted to know, where was I? Everybody else have a childhood. Why don't I have one?
Okay, so what was your first memory at 11 and a half? Do you remember what that was?
Yes, I remember my mother had took me over a lady's house that she had went to church with, and she left me over there for a few days, but she wasn't there herself. And I remember being raped at 11 and a half by a woman in the church. That's what I remember.
At 11 and a half by a woman in the church?
Yes.
Did she come over to this house or?
Yes, she was actually a part of the family. She was a family member of the person who owned the house, but I didn't know her. I didn't know who she was.
So you remember that. And then did you report it or what happened after that?
Well, it was a lot of things going on after that. Her brother also was raping me, and he was in his 40s. He had started raping me first. I didn't know who he was either. It was just a bunch of people coming over, and I guess I was left there so often, they just picked me out as a target. And so he would come in the room and caress me and give me candy and different things like that. He would actually he would stand there until he found him a place. But his family was also staying there, wife and children. He would leave his wife and children in a midnight hour, and I remember him coming over to my room, caressing me and giving me candy, and it started from there. And he had this like threat look on his face, as if I would say anything, he would snap my neck. And that's how the gut that I had, I was too scared. I was scared of him. But because my uncle was already raping me at my grandmother's house, I just...
Well, so did you tell anybody about this at that age?
Not at that age, I didn't. Not at that age 11 and a
Now,
half.
you said there was a grandmother in the picture,
Yes.
and you would go over her house. This is not the woman from the church. This is somebody else, right?
Right.
And it was over your grandmother's house that you were being raped by an uncle?
Yes, but I don't know how young I was being raped by my uncle. Study shows that I could have been raped by my uncle much younger, because I don't have those memories. But I do know roughly around the age of 11 and a half, my uncle was raping several of
Okay.
us.
So you reported this eventually.
Yes.
You don't know what age it was?
I was 13.
And who did you report it to?
My head aunt, she was the head of the family when my grandmother passed away, and I reported it to her.
Was your mother still around?
Yes, she was.
Where was your mother?
My mother has a mental condition. She is schizophrenic, and so that's why she just left me anywhere she could, because my mother abandoned me. She was never around. I was always home alone. I was one of those home alone children, left alone with no food, no parents, no one to come home to. And so that's why my grandmother had to take me in, because she wanted me to live a normal life.
Yes, but the life couldn't be that normal if someone was being allowed. And usually grandmothers are pretty protective.
She was very protective over me and my little brother. But she was more protected over me, because she would get very angry and she would say things like, bad things. She would say, where is that,
Oh, she would call your mother names?
yeah,
Okay.
where's that,
But as far as the
Yeah.
protection from an uncle, who was probably her son, right?
Yes.
And she didn't say anything to the uncle? They didn't call the police?
No, she was so busy worried about my mother leaving me and taking me over to people that my mother barely knew. She would meet people, and then next thing you know, she would just leave me there for weeks at a time, and she would not come back to get me until she felt like it. And so my grandmother would be like, she's always leaving, Sylvia someplace. She's always leaving her. And that's why my grandmother said, it would have been best for me to live with her. But she didn't know that she was so busy worrying about when my mother was leaving me. And I understand that, because I was also being abused with those people. But I was also being abused at Granny's house as well. right under her own roof.
You know, that's so unfortunate because that sometimes we do not talk about certain things in families. And it's not just black families, it's families. And this is something, as reported, I mean, because